South Korea today is facing some pretty serious challenges with statistics that are, frankly, staggering. So, what we're going to dive into is one spiritual leader's unique take on what's going on, and more importantly, a proposed roadmap to fix it. This is a vision that sees the country's internal struggles as being tied to a much bigger global mission. Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll start by looking at the crisis itself, then unpack this idea of a great cleanup period. After that, we'll explore Korea's proposed role as humanity's root, and then get into the concrete solutions, the rise of so-called social parents, their first big project, and finally, a radical rethinking of personal identity. All right, first things first, to really get why these proposed changes are so dramatic, you have to understand the scale of the problem. The numbers that this perspective points to, well, they paint a pretty grim picture of a society that's really stretched to its limits. Let's start with this number, 0.72. That is South Korea's birth rate, which is the lowest in the entire world. According to the source material, this isn't just a statistic you see in a newspaper. It's an existential alarm bell. We're talking about a demographic cliff that puts the entire future of the nation at risk. And beyond the demographics, there's a human cost that is just heartbreaking. 41. On average, that's how many people die by suicide in South Korea every single day. This isn't seen as just a collection of individual tragedies, but as a direct symptom of a society under incredible, crushing pressure. And finally, there's been a massive change in how people live. Get this, 40% of all households in the country are now just one person. That completely rewires the idea of community. Traditional family support systems are fading away, and that has huge knock-on effects for everything from loneliness to how you care for the elderly. So you see all this, and you have to ask, why is it all coming to a head right now? Well, this is where the perspective gets really unique. The source material lays out this almost prophetic framework for understanding why this period is going to be so turbulent. It's this concept called the Great Cleanup. The idea here is that the years 2025 through 2027 are not some random period of bad luck. No, it's framed as a painful but totally necessary purification. It's a time when all the problems that have been hidden under the rug are going to be forced out into the open so they can finally be dealt with. And from that national cleanup, the perspective zooms way out. It connects this crisis in South Korea to a responsibility for the entire planet. The argument being made is that what's happening there doesn't just matter for Koreans, it has implications for all of us. A central metaphor here is to think of the world as a tree. In this picture, South Korea is the root. And we all know, if the root of a tree is unhealthy, the whole thing, the trunk, the branches, is in big trouble. So the idea is that fixing Korea's problems is the first step to healing the world. Now, this idea of a global mission is deeply tied to a foundational Korean philosophy called Hongik Ingan. At its core, it's this beautiful principle of living for the benefit of all humankind, not just for yourself or your own country. The source material takes it a step further, describing Koreans as chunson, or heavenly descendants. Now, this isn't meant to sound arrogant. It's not about being better than anyone else. It's about having an inherent, profound responsibility, a special duty to help guide humanity toward a brighter future. Okay, so we've got the huge problem on one hand, and this grand global mission on the other. So how do you bridge that gap? What's the actual solution? Well, according to this teaching, it all starts with a new kind of person, a new kind of leader stepping up. The whole solution revolves around this concept of social parents. And this quote really gets to the heart of it. The idea is that your own personal life, even your relationship with your own kids, is directly connected to how much you care about and contribute to the society around you. It's a powerful link. So who are these social parents? They're basically anyone who decides to shift their focus from a me life to a we life. They're people who look at society's problems and don't just complain, they feel a sense of ownership. And the collective rise of these individuals is presented as the only real antidote to the chaos. It's one thing to have a new type of leadership, but that leadership needs something to do, a tangible, urgent mission that everyone can rally around. And this vision proposes a very specific and very ambitious first project. Here it is. The number one priority is a national movement to achieve suicide zero by 2030. And the goal isn't just to reduce the number, it's to create a society where suicide becomes unthinkable, a place where no one feels that alone. And if they can do it, that becomes a powerful model for the whole world. And the plan to get this started is very direct. First, these social parents need to find each other and come together. Second, they need to show they're serious, and this is symbolized by a monthly pledge of 30,000 won, a tangible sign of commitment. And third, they just launch the project and get to work. It's about action, not just talk. Now we come to the final part of this reform plan, and honestly, it might be the most radical of all. It's not about passing a new law, it's about fundamentally changing how every single person sees themselves. Look at this shift. The idea is to literally get rid of titles like worker and employee and housewife. Instead, everyone becomes a researcher. So a sanitation worker becomes a hygiene researcher, a parent becomes a home researcher, an office worker, a social researcher. So why do this? Well, here's the thinking behind it. The name you give yourself changes your mindset. The source argues that if you see yourself as just a laborer, you don't tap into your own wisdom. But if you elevate your own title to researcher, it unlocks a new way of thinking. It gives you dignity and empowers you to find creative solutions. And this applies to everybody, from the top to the bottom. Every single job becomes a field of study. Everyone is an expert, contributing to the bigger project of making life better. The entire country is reframed as this giant human research institute, working for the benefit of all humanity. And this is the key takeaway here. This identity shift isn't just a nice symbolic idea. In this worldview, it's the absolute foundation. It's the essential groundwork that has to be laid before any other social policies or changes can actually stick and be successful. This quote really just wraps the whole philosophy up perfectly. Real, lasting social reform doesn't come from the top down. It starts with a personal choice, a decision to take that first step away from a purely private life and into a public one where you take ownership for the well-being of everyone. And all of this leaves us with a pretty big question to think about. Whatever you think of this specific vision, it forces us to ask, what is the real power of a name? What could happen if an entire nation decided all at once to change how it identifies itself? Could that alone reshape its future? It's definitely something to chew on.